What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show. And I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Michael Horn, who is the authorized American media representative for the Billy Meier Contacts, which he has researched since 1979. Michael is the writer, producer, director of the award-winning new film And Did They Listen, as well as the co-producer of the new documentary As the Time Fulfills, which presents an abundance of ironclad, accurate scientific evidence that irrefutably proves the Billy Meier case. He is the writer and co-producer of the award-winning feature-length documentary The Silent Revolution of Truth, as well as the writer, producer, and narrator of the DVD The Meier Contacts: The Key to Our Future Survival. Michael Horn, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Glad to be back speaking with you, visiting with you again.
I am so glad you're back on, and we're going to record a quick vlog update with yourself just after the show, because you've done a number of shows yourself on our network, and I'm always found them fascinating, and I've now got the chance to interview yourself, which I always wanted to do as well. So we'll put some links under this video just for the previous vlogs that you've done, which have actually been quite successful.
It's growing. I have well over 475 articles up there now on the blog.
Yeah.
So I kind of keep churning them out, and then there's little lapses, and I come back to it.
This case with Billy Meier, it just will not go away, will it?
No, I'm afraid humanity might go away before the Meier case goes away, to be blunt about it. No, it's not going to go away. It can't be suppressed anymore. I mean, sure, it hasn't reached a level of mainstream exposure that I'd like to see, and that any of us who are familiar with it would like to see, because if and when it does, we would change the world in a much more positive direction.
Yes, and at the end of the interview, we're going to get down to that as well. But and just to begin with, as well, you're not religious, well, you tell the audience, you're not religious, are you?
No, not at all.
No.
I'm kind of grateful to my parents that they weren't religious people, and they saw no need to, pardon me, fill my head with mush about anything. And I do remember when I was very young, I was about 10 years old or so, and I remember asking my mother and telling her, I said, I want to know the truth about Jesus and God. What is that all about? And she said, well, all I can tell you is, as far as I'm concerned, God is love. The rest you've got to go find out for yourself. So I found out a lot more for myself and answered those questions in a nice, profound, and satisfying way. And it's a little different than my mother thought, but she had the right idea, in essence.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like that. I like that. And I mean, you've been on so many talk shows across the world over so many years. How many years have you been doing this for now?
Well, actually, I started making presentations on the Meier case around 1988, 87 or 88. And that was the first, go out and lecture kind of thing. Los Angeles and Hawaii, back and forth a few times there. And then I started doing the radio interviews, I think was around 2000 or 2001, somewhere in there. And that's continued, as you pointed out, and grown. There's been tons of them.
Yeah.
And officially representing the case in a contractual sense, where actually Meier and his group and I had an agreement. We drew up an agreement. That started in 2004. And the essence of that agreement was that I would be able to freely represent the case without an exchange of money either way, so that I could retain my autonomy, my opinions. If I didn't know something in the material and was simply saying, well, according to the information in the case, which I say a lot, even though I may feel like I mean some things, but according to the information in the case, then I can present that without having to be a bought and paid for defender of everything. And there's things, if I disagree about anything, I'm likewise also free to say, well, I don't agree with it. I don't know. I mean, Billy's track record is he's been right all the time, but I can't wrap my head around that. And that's happened a couple of times. So that's been going on. I'm in my second 7-year contract with them. I like to say that I'm in my third year, 4th month, 2nd week, and first day of a 7-year vow of silence. But somehow people don't buy that for some reason.
And just for the audience as well, if they use YouTube to type in Billy Meier, sometimes it comes up with Randolph Winters. So there was a crossover when you took over what he was doing, in a sense, or he stopped, because he did represent Billy Meier at one time, didn't he?
Yeah. I met Randy, I think it was right in 1986 or so, when shortly after I got the documents that he had even prior to that, 1986 or 87, and we got together. We both knew about the Meier case. He was representing it. And we made a film documentary that's all over YouTube too, called The Pleiadian Connection. And I used to be his opening act. I would come and do New Age comedy songs and introduce Randy, sit in the audience and watch his presentations. And what happened was, while he was a terrific presenter, and he's just a very natural guy, very much at ease with the material, but he started to interject things which weren't part of it. And he got himself in a bit of trouble because he ends up misrepresenting and kind of, polluting the waters. And I was catching that, and I was thinking, that's not in there. And what happened was, it was because I saw the inconsistencies that I decided I want to try and do my own presentation. And Randy was very nice. He gave me a tray of slides at the time. We had slides and stuff. And then the FIGU organization, Billy's organization, said to him, look, we don't want you to do this anymore. You're kind of off in the wrong direction. So I kind of kept going unofficially,
right,
until I had gone to Switzerland in the year 2000 when I was already doing interviews or presentations at least and stuff. And then, each year I would ask them about, well, what about this or that? And finally, they had given me permission. They said, okay, well, you can do that. We'll give you a contract. And on we went from there.
Okay. So, and thank you for just clearing that up as well. Okay, for those who may not have come across Billy Meier, just tell us briefly about the Billy Meier case and about Billy as well.
Well, sure. Let's start with Billy Meier is a soon-to-be 79-year-old Swiss man. He lives up in the rugged rural Zurich highlands, probably about 45 minutes outside southeast of Zurich. He has one arm. He lost his left arm in 1965, and he claims that ever since he was a 5-year-old boy growing up in rural Switzerland, that he's been in not only telepathic, but primarily face-to-face, voluntary, wide-awake contact with human beings from another star system. And that they, starting at the age of 5, they started to mentor him, teach him, help him develop his consciousness, his mind, his abilities in many levels, showed him things pertaining to the far distant past, the future, took him into various places, showing him our solar system and far beyond over time, not when he was a child initially, but although he was shown the moon ostensibly when he was about 7 to 9 years old. He met many people who were or would become major players on the world stage. Everybody from Mahatma Gandhi to Tito Franco, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Haile Selassie, King Hussein of Jordan. He met Saddam Hussein when they were both about the same age in Iraq in the 50s. And he says, as he said in one of our films, that even at that time, the guy was an up-and-coming thug. He was going to do anything he could to, attain power, including represent himself as a holy man, whatever it took. And that's what he did do. So Meier claims that these meetings with these people and these experiences prepared him for a mission in life that was going to be very vast, enormously challenging, very difficult, including literally life-threatening. There have been 22 attempts on Meier's life in the past 40-odd years. He claims that he always has had the option to decline this mission, which would involve his provoking the worldwide UFO controversy with all of his stunning and remarkable physical UFO evidence, unprecedented in all of history. In any category, really, that somebody could, because when people say, oh, he must have hoaxed, you don't hoax 1,200 clear, primarily daytime UFO photos and fool professional, independent, expert analysts and scientists and experts. So he produced this evidence, put it on the table, along with metal alloy samples and sound recordings and all sorts of things that were just literally out of this world. Of course, all the time being accused of being a hoaxer and having attempts on his life, attempts on his family's life, kidnapping, stuff like that, and staying the course. So in this case, what he's done, and in the way I look at it, is it's kind of been a 3-part approach. Now, this isn't that they're saying it, this is the way I look at it, which is the first part is the eye candy, the UFO evidence, the photos, films, video, the stuff that dazzles us and provokes the controversy. Okay, great. After that, you've got this voluminous amount of what I call the higher standard of proof, the prophetically accurate, scientific, and world event-related information. Now, skeptics attack, the evidence, my claims about it, etc., but it remains pretty unassailable. Then, after you get to this, you're looking at these two categories. You're saying, well, wait a minute. What's the purpose of all this? I've said many times, it isn't to get us to chase lights in the sky and go, ooh, UFOs. Most of what we see in the sky, most but not all, secret military craft. It's been that way for actually almost 100 years, since about the 20s. No. We look at that, and then we look at all the prophetic information, and we're wondering, well, why? And then the answer kind of comes up. It's like this. Well, here is this entire body of physical and informational evidence and information of impeccable quality, credibility, authenticity, accuracy. So the statement that this is making is, now that we have your attention and you can vet this for yourselves and see that this is a foundation of credible evidence, let's put evidence overriding all of that, and that it was presented to you, the people of the world, by this one man with one hand. You know, I mean, it couldn't be any more preposterous to call this guy, you know, like a hoaxer, because, of course, nobody's ever come forward to say, hey, I did it, I helped him, nothing. Nobody's ever said, hey, he owes me $1 million for making these models or whatever. So the statement resonates. Now that you can see and determine for yourself this foundation of credible evidence, we recommend to you, we invite you to look at the reason for the case. And that is contained in what is called spiritual teaching. Now, to be clear, because this is a buzzword for a lot of people, spiritual, it's a connotation for many people. Oh, it's religious or cultic or a sect. No, it isn't. In a sense, it's unfortunate that those connotations are there. But it pertains right now at our level of development in life to our consciousness, to our thinking, to understanding actually how life really works, which is very different than the way we've been told and coerced to believe that it works. And that opens the door here for a discussion about what that is.
Okay, absolutely. I want to get into the spiritual teachings as well, because that's so, as you say, so key to all this. 21 assassination attempts. That's
22.
Sorry, 22 now as well. Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, now what's his health like right now? 'Cause you say that he's 79 years old, obviously.
Well, yeah, well, I'll tell you, this year, he'll be 79 in 2016, but this year, while he was still 78, I was over in Switzerland for my 15th visit. I figured out that I'd probably done about 180,000 mile round trips in terms of going to Switzerland, because people have to understand, it's like, I always wanted to keep as much neutrality and just not what we'd call being a skeptic, but a place whereby I wasn't locking myself into a belief. I wanted to know, is this true? Is there anything that couldn't be? So I actually tried to trick Meier, as I may have said before, but 4 times in 3 years I tried to trick him on a question, but he always had the same answer, was right there. And, you know, it's like when you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. It's the truth, you know it, and you speak it. Okay, so I'm over there in late May, June, and I do a few film clips, which I have up on my YouTube channel, people can see. And it has a lot to do, the questions I asked have a lot to do about the state of the world that we're in now and what's coming because and from it and all that. While I was interviewing Meier, not that anyone maybe could tell, he was recovering is a funny word because he's had so many things, but he was post-injury. He had taken a very bad fall and bruised a number of ribs. They weren't sure at first if he'd broken them or not, but they were pretty badly bruised. He was about a week away from a heart valve operation, which is a pretty serious thing too. Along with all the other ills, he has phantom limb pain, some rheumatism, tinnitus. The guy's got, a lot on his plate in terms of health. But the thing about Billy, which inspires me actually quite a bit, is he's stoic. He is not self-indulgent. He doesn't show any self-pity. He doesn't pity himself. This is what comes with being a human being. There are no perfect beings that are immune from the ills of the world or the challenges and bruises of life. And his attitude is quite remarkable about that. And he feels that there's always much to be learned, even and often because of great difficulties and pains and adversity. So when I saw him and when I'm asking him these questions and he's answering them and he's sitting there, this is a man who's in 7 degrees pain all over the place. His heart valve needs replacing. He's sitting there with bruised rib. It's like, look, I didn't know that about the heart valve thing until well after that. I knew he'd fallen. But no self-pity. So he's a guy that has a sense of duty that far exceeds what most people even think about. Because it's like a lot of life for a lot of people is, well, I have to go to work, I have to do this, and then I have to do that. But what I don't have to do, I'm not going to do if I don't have to do it. And a lot of that is dictated then by outside circumstances for people.
Absolutely. And can anybody, go and meet Billy in a sense? Is he quite open? Is the organization quite open to, having time with Billy, or?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because Meier, of course, as I said, he's going to be 79. He's gone through tremendous health issues. He had a brain injury, 20 years ago or less, whatever it was. A lot of stuff that he had to recover from. He has a family. He has his duties still in terms of his writing. He still meets with the play Aaron, and he's recuperating from a heart operation. And if he doesn't know people right now in his life, he's not inclined to go out of his way to meet him. There are people who accidentally, they've been over there and Billy's come out, hello, and he says and greets people. He doesn't look to meet people, not because he's a snob, because it's really the opposite. He doesn't consider himself some celebrity, a guru, a master, somebody to sit and hold court.
Yes.
He's a human being with all that comes with that. And he,
of course,
one thing I've noticed over all these years, he tends to greet and meet and treat people with a kind of uniform openness, neutrality, cordiality. And you always feel like, in a sense, like, well, we know each other already. There's no pretense here. It's very nice, but we can learn more from reading for 1/2 hour his material than we can for trying to go for the purpose of meeting him. And the people in Switzerland, just to add this, the people there will meet with you. They will spend time. They will show you books and photos and all the rest of it. So just so people know.
Okay. And like as you say, there's still contact going on now.
Correct.
And is that contact as in remote viewed kind of channeling messages, or is it physical contact still?
He has telepathic contact. That he's had that since a child, but that's not how they conduct most of their stuff. The only time that the telepathy is involved for any extended period of time, from what I understand, is after he's had the face-to-face contact, generally in his office these days. Then later on, as they always have since 1975, they transmit to him telepathically the conversation, not in the German that they've held it in, but in symbol pictures that he then has to translate back into German, simultaneously typing it out with one hand, and he used to do that up to 100 words a minute. German, lots of nouns. That means your hand is flying all over the keyboard, cap lock, release, etc. It's a remarkable thing that we have some film of him doing it. It looks like he's got to be kidding. He's just, and no, that's how he does it. But the meetings, when there's actual meetings, other than the book corrections are done telepathically because Meier has another one or more of his associates there with him while they're working on correcting translations in books and things.
And do these others meet the Pleiadians? Oh, they're not called Pleiadians, are they? They've got another name, haven't they?
Yeah, like you said, Pleiadians. No one else can meet them. That's why, if Billy is working with another member of his group in the translation process, and he's getting help from the Pleiadian, that help will be telepathic. He will tell the person what he was told, like if there's something that needs to be changed in a word, and they tell him what the change should be. Yes. Then he will speak it to the person who's now doing the actual, transcripting.
And very quickly, as I was just saying there, has anyone else seen the Pleiadians when they're with Billy?
Accidentally.
Yeah.
The one I think about this one, we have a film called The Silent Revolution of Truth, and people can see that for free on YouTube. Yeah. And there's a woman over there, Bernadette, I've seen every year. I've gone there. And Bernadette has been very closely working with Billy. It's about 30 years now, I think. Billy has been like a stepfather to her son. He was a stepfather to another woman's son. They weren't his children. Well, anyhow, Bernadette, as do the other people in the group to this day, conduct what's called a night watch, where at night, it's all dark and everything. A couple of people will patrol around the grounds, do shifts until daylight. And the reason for that primarily is because of the assassination attempts. And they want to make sure that there's a presence there and anybody could convey, it helps to discourage, somebody who's coming. They're not going to come too close on the property, etc. Anyway,
Right. Yep.
Bernadette is walking around and she decides to sit down for a little bit and take a breather on the steps that are right outside Billy's office window, which, when he has meetings with the Play-Iron, the drapes are always drawn, except for that one night. And the drapes are open, and Bernadette looks in. And so the next day she says, "Billy, who were those men with you last night?" And he said, "Well, come on, Bernadette, who do you think they were?" And she said, "Well, I think the old, the one with the gray hair, that must have been Patah, and the other tall guy with the dark hair, that's Quetzal. But who was the other guy?" And he said, "Well, that was so-and-so." So she has seen them in the office.
Wow.
Other people accidentally, one person came upon them accidentally in the forest area where they startled one of the ETs that was there with the car headlights. And some people have heard them walking by the trailer at night. These funny little things happen, and it's kind of like, oh, well, what are you going to do with it? It's like,
Yes.
Sure, it's all very interesting, but, these are human beings on a job here.
Absolutely. And with all this material he's been putting together over all these years, with the information that's been coming through, what's happening to these books? Are these books available to purchase in an English language? Where are these books?
Yeah, there are a number of them available in English, and of course he's got over 50 books available in German. The German, books are, there's tons of them, and they're about so many different things. And some will get translated in English. Well, a few have been translated. There's 3 actually recently translated, and they're always published with the German on one page and the English on the other.
Oh, right.
So German speakers and readers can read in either language and also get a sense of how the words were translated. Well, there's a book called The Psyche, and that deals with what we call the psyche. It's connected to emotions and feelings, personality, different functions in us. Then there's the most brilliant book you'll probably ever read on thinking. It's called The Might of the Thoughts. And these books are all part of the spiritual teaching. That's why they've been translated into English. Another book in English is And Still They Fly by Guido Musburger, which we have as well. I carry the English language books and make them available internationally for people. The third book is called The Goblet of the Truth, and it came out recently. And that's a 4-pound, 8-ounce book.
Wow.
Hold on, I'll show you this book.
Yeah, please.
I just have to show you. This thing, this is a real big book here.
Oh my God.
Can you see?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Exactly. So that's our whopper. Well, what the book is said to be is the following. It is the same spiritual teaching as presented by the 6 prophets before Meier in German and translated into English, consistent with how they spoke it and taught it to the people of their day, meaning Enoch, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Emmanuel, who got falsely called Jesus Christ, a human being who never existed at the time, and Muhammad, and then Billy. His is the final chapters expressing the spiritual teaching for the people of today and the future, and the other ones, it was written as it was presented to the people of their day.
So you're saying that these prophets before maybe had contact with groups from other dimensions, other planets, like the Pleiadians?
They were all mentored by the Plei-Aran, as Meier was. And this is an interesting dimension to the whole deal, because
Yes.
it kind of goes to my little axiom or maxim or whatever you want to call it. Where and whenever human beings are involved, things can and will get screwed up. The whole point of these prophets has been to bring to earth humanity what's called the teaching of creation, the teaching of life, the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the spirit. And it was meant to bring us as a species, humankind, clarity about how life itself works, the origin, the creation, the force that has birthed and given life and to
Manifestation.
everything in the universe,
Yeah.
and sustains and supports it. That's why when my mother said to me, "Oh, God is love, and you have to find out the rest," she was on the right track. Except God is the creation of religions, always referred to human beings. In some cases, the ancestors of the Pleiaren who were here, or other ETs, while the creation is the impersonal force that has created and sustains everything in this universe, which is kind of the body of the consciousness, if you will. And we're not living in the only universe. That's a whole other story. But the laws of creation from this universe have been passed down since ancient times. And in terms of our world, which is the one we're most concerned with right now, the mess that it is, these laws, this teaching, which is devoid, has no purgatory, hell, punishment stuff. It teaches how to live so that we don't, in effect, punish ourselves because the law of cause and effect, which is also a neutral law, is what brings us a lot of the difficulties in life that are of our own making. And this 4-pound, 8-ounce book is trying to help us to understand much better how to live in accordance with free will. We don't have to follow everything. How to test things out so that we can determine things for ourselves. So these books are available in English. Yes.
It's so true what you're saying. I mean, again, as you've said, this teaching has come through many prophets before. Yeah, all those who are open to receive. You don't have to use the word prophet at all here, but those who are open to receive such information, and they will still keep coming through until we get it, because we haven't got it so far. And when we do think we've got it, we get in the way, and the ego gets in the way and screws it all up, in a sense. But there are other dark forces taking place here, and we'll get into that as well. But just going to the website for Billy as well, they've got their own website where you can get these books from. Then obviously,
well, I sell the English language books. I don't sell the German language books.
Right.
And for many people throughout the world, it can be easier sometimes to get them from me, unless the postage is prohibitive. And if they're closer to Switzerland, then sometimes it'll be less expensive, but it depends, because sometimes the books are more expensive if they've come from Australia or Canada, what have you. But suffice it to say, they can get it from my site, they can get it from the Swiss site, and the main thing is for those people that want to know, that want to discover, study, question, test, this is far more important than the UFOs, the ETs, and even the prophecies. Because the only way we can survive, I call the Meier case the key to our future survival. We've got to start to learn this and applying it in our lives. This isn't like it isn't designed to be against us. We are more against ourselves.
There's a lot of channeled information out there as well from people I've had on recently, like the Seth organizations, Seth Speaks, and other great information as well, like Casey and all other sorts. And I think you have to go with what resonates with you, but they're all kind of saying the same thing, no matter if they're coming from this reality or dimensions above. It's all about trying to, they care enough to come through, and it's about trying to improve ourselves. And there's an easier way to be. It doesn't have to be so painful in a sense. But my point is really that there is many ways to truth. There is never just one truth, is there?
Well, in some senses there is. This is the thing. We can say, well, it's true for me that this thing or that thing works. But truth, the capital T, truth, means that which really and truly is according to the creation, that which has birthed all things. And look, people are free and study, examine any and everything. The problem, and I went through a lot of stuff. I had read a lot of the Seth material before I'd gone. And starting in 1986, I went to all these channeling events. The deficit for me is they don't know they don't know the depth of the laws of creation. They don't know the mechanisms of thinking. And to be perfectly blunt, and again, this is simply me being, my opinion as I understand this. These things are not coming through higher dimensions with channels. They're generally coming through aspects of the person's consciousness themselves, whereby they believe that they are in touch with something else. But it doesn't actually work that way, because discarnate entities, no. I'm going to say it one more time just so everybody understands. This is derived from the Meier material and reasoned through, and you're entitled to disagree with it, everybody. But when a person dies, no matter how evolved they are, you cannot be in conversation with them. The personality dissolves upon death. All those prophets from the past, those personalities are gone. The same spirit, it's said in the Meier case, has enlivened each of those prophets, meaning Enoch, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Emmanuel, and Muhammad were all enlivened by the same spirit that now enlivens Billy Edward Albert Meier. And he has no relationship personality-wise to these people. We don't in our past personalities either. So, one thing, when people think they're in contact with the dead, they're not. What they may, in some cases, be doing is accessing stored information in what they refer to as the storage banks in the Meier case, where everything from any and everybody who's ever lived on this world has been effectively stored in what you might think of as an etheric computer. Some people are sensitive enough, consciously or unconsciously, to tap into information. They may think that they're chatting with Uncle Charlie, but what they're doing is really picking up those frequencies and information that is stored about or from that person. In the Meier case, we're not getting that. We're not having Meier channeling discarnate entities. It is said, in all fairness, that he has the ability to receive telepathically information from a high spiritual level, one of which he can't communicate back to. But I say to people, I don't get too hung up on that part of it. If we're going to try to evolve, because a lot of people have good things to say. Who's going to argue with we need love and peace? And,
well, that's what a lot of the channel messages are. They are just of a high level of love.
The difference is that when you get into, and this can only be really appreciated or critiqued as people, if they choose to study the spiritual teaching, a lot of which is free on my website. You don't have to buy books if you don't want to start to get the thrust of what they're talking about. When you start to read and understand, and the thinking starts to work, and the laws are unfolding, and the intuitions are coming forward, then you have a mechanism that you can test. And look, anybody that stands for the good things, peace, love, harmony, and freedom, we're on the same page. If we want to go farther and go, okay, let's get to the real deal, the thing that for thousands of years has been suppressed from us, the how we do this to liberate ourselves from political, religious, governmental, and other suppression, domination, and destruction. That's what you will find in the Meier case.
Right. Okay. And just my understanding as well, with the Pleiadians, how do they see the soul then? Do they? So I mean, I've always felt that I've come from somewhere and I'm going to go back to it. In me intact, my consciousness intact, not to disappear forever, and this is it, and I'm not going to know anything else once I've passed on. What do they feel the same way? Their understanding of consciousness? Because when you look at the teachings of the work of people like the work of Dr. Michael Newton, where he's taken people in life between lives and life after death regressions, and that's just one way into it. But it seems to me that the soul carries on, and this is just a blip to go to, a special blip.
Okay, what I'm going to say now, I'm going to say again according to the information of the case, and I'm also going to say that people won't like it if they are partial to that. According to the information of the case, no, it's different. So let me give you answers to the parts. The soul they refer to in the spiritual teaching is the psyche. As I mentioned, that book, the psyche, this is a temporal construct in each lifetime connected to the personality, the emotions, the solar plexus. That's where we get this word soul from, solar plexus. Okay. At death, This is dissolving. The personality, the psyche, soul is dissolving, but all of the knowledge and experience, wisdom, everything is absorbed by the spirit. This is the eternal, immortal part, the good news part. This is located deep within the brain, the center of the brain. And all that information is also stored in these storage banks we refer to. When the spirit leaves the body, upon death, the spirit leaves the body. If that true death, you don't come back into the body. You're gone. You can be in certain states and be revived, but when you're dead, you're dead. That process is going on. The unique personality, many of us, I like this personality. I don't want this to disappear or change or anything. Now, we'll get back to this, but just think about it for a second. You and I, we've never not known consciousness. We've never not known being ourselves. So the way life is set up, if it's true about reincarnation, and we've lived thousands of times before and have thousands more to go, we'll never not exist, but we will always have, a new form. Now let's get to the between life thing. No. There is absolutely no awareness in between life. You cannot regress somebody really effectively, accurately for past life and between life stuff. This is because we are so laden with information, beliefs, hopes, and dreams. When you start regressing people, the unconscious stuff is putting it together. Let's remember, at night, we dream and we create a universe, a reality. We can't do that when we're awake. I can't sit here, even close my eyes and try to bring forward and sustain this great dream I had last night that went on with all these details. So hypnosis and regressions, you put somebody in a dreamy state, in effect, and now all this stuff is coming forward and they were so-and-so. Are there cases, few and far between, where somebody tapped into a past life? Sometimes not even their own, but somebody else's. Yeah, usually happens with children. Somebody comes forward and the kid says, well, I was in World War I or World War II and my name was, and we've got these. Those things happen. Those are really rare and anomalous things. Now, when the spirit goes into the beyond, it goes into this etheric non-place, where there is no conscious awareness. There's no we, I, us. The spirit is there until it's time, however that's determined, for the reincarnation of that spirit, the one that enlivened you or me, into the new fetus, the embryo, now becomes the fetus, and the new personality actually starts to form. 21st day, when the spirit attaches. It won't be us as we know ourselves now any more than the longer we live. If we look back in our life, well, was that really me at 20 or 15 or at 9? Look outside, any kid. That could be you. If you're saying, I want to go back and visit my pet. Well, in a sense, there's as much relationship to somebody 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago when you start to get older and older to our earlier state that we tap into, then it might as well be just somebody else on the street. If we could meet ourselves at 15 when we're 45 or 50, both of us might have a really strange experience. How did you, okay. So according to the information in the case, no, we don't get all this. Aunt Edna and Nellie and the kids are all gambling through the fields and the sheep and the lambs and the butterflies and there's pretty music and all, the saints are flying. Zip. Not happening. But we've never suffered from that, if that's true, because all we know is, well, here I am, it's me, it's now. I'm living life to the fullest. That is the way it's described in spiritual teaching, we have to understand everything in life has its cycle. It has, just if we observe nature, we can see this. You see, now it's winter, and you go into the forest, I go in the forest, I see these plants that were in full bloom. I look, and they look so withered, they dead. Well, come springtime, they're going to be back and alive again. Will that really be a live plant again? Will it be exactly the same plant? Yes and no. It'll be an evolved life for that plant.
Well, what is their understanding then? Sorry, I know we're limited on time, and I don't hate to butt in. What is their understanding then of the purpose of existence and what the consciousness is trying to do then? Why come here?
Perfect. Here's the deal. Meier said this just about the first thing he said in our film, The Silent Revolution of Truth. He says, the meaning of life is the evolution of consciousness. Just what you're on right now. If what is taught in the spiritual teaching and by the Plejaren and Meier is true, that is that this universe is teeming with human life forms, lots of them. There's some non-human life forms, but they're not coming here as greys and reptiles and so there's just other forms. But the human species is ubiquitous at this point, billions to trillions of races throughout the entirety of this universe, which is a pretty big place.
And a universe that's always expanding.
Always expanding.
You can't even get that around your head, but sorry, continue. Yeah.
Right, and far older than our scientists know. And it will be far older than our scientists can conceive of. The meaning of life for all human forms, because the human form is the one that is inspirited by the human spirit and consciousness, free will. And so any and everywhere there is human life on a given planet, when the planet is ready for life and it evolves and, the slow evolution of this form and that form, and finally we're standing up on 2 feet and, we're clubbing each over the head and, get out of that. We haven't quite gotten out of that on Earth, but that's another story. So this evolution is that we, as the Plejaren have also explained from their perspective of having gone through many more stages of evolution, we are then destined, if we will just live a equalized kind of, existence, we will evolve our technology. We're kind of way too far ahead on that right now. And commensurately, we will evolve our spiritual and consciousness-related development so that we can responsibly handle technology so that we can do those things that we dream of doing, seeking out all the mysteries of the cosmos and traveling to other worlds and this and that and creating things on Earth that are amazing and magnificent and harnessing nature in a healthy way whereby the abundance is available. All these wonderful things that technology can bring, but it's got to have this commensurate balanced consciousness, spiritual development going on. And this is what these, almost endless reincarnations of spirit and incarnations of personalities are for, so that ultimately, way down the road, millions and millions of years, if not billions, who we are now, has evolved this consciousness to a place where the spirit and the consciousness are kind of one thing and remerges with the creation, the universe itself. What can we do with that information right now? It's so different than the religious thing. Well, if you're really good, and if we don't have to punish you and dip you in lead for eternity, because you're so bad, no, we got to dip you in that hot stuff. That's not the way it works. We're not punished by life. We actually punish or reward ourselves by how we think, feel, and act. So we're in charge of that. Now, yes, in everybody's life, something comes from left field every now and then. The rug gets pulled out because you happen to be in a particular place. That's life too. But and even in those circumstances, if we've studied the spiritual teaching, we're better prepared to have equanimity and our wits about us and relative calm and purpose, know how to create the next possible step when adversity strikes, do the best we can. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we win. This is evolution. It isn't the stagnant, okay, you're dead, here's your harp, you made it up to heaven. Okay, no. This is what religion feeds people for millennia to keep them, under control. And everything is the dangling carrot outside, like, don't worry about this life, because when you die, if you've been good, you get the harp, you get the cloud, and you get to sit there and St. Peter will, give you a... Oh, so we're all living in, if we buy into that, we're in fear of doing the wrong thing because we won't have favor with this God.
Sure. And I'll get off this subject in a minute, but what about people that have had near-death experiences and they talk about that this was their chance for them to wake up and share this news that that consciousness does continue, and it's very special to have this experience where we are right now, and that if we just come from a day-to-day perspective maybe of what would love do now in any situation, it's got to be the right way to be. But what about near-death then?
They're not dead. That's the difference. See, and Meier actually has written about this too and explained with oxygen privation or starvation of the brain, etc., this triggers the mind, unconscious things, hopes, fears, dreams, depending on the person. A lot of people not only are religious, those that aren't harbor remnants of religious beliefs because our world is saturated with them. There's so many religions going on all over the place, and the tunnel of light deal and all that stuff. But let's remember, you don't come back from death in this life.
Well, all I can say, I mean, there was a case with Alexander Eben, and hopefully he's going to come on soon, where he had a near-death experience. He was told that he had a sister, and in the end, after coming to and many months had passed, he put this question to his family, and yes, there actually was a sister who had passed on. I mean, he was never told about this. I mean, where does that come from then?
It comes from the fact that this information, as I said, is stored, and that people consciously or unconsciously can tap in, especially under certain extreme circumstances. Billy wrote about the fact that sometimes people will mobilize dormant energies or powers within them, even unconsciously in certain circumstances, or consciously if they're able to. This has been witnessed by people who've seen, even in Meier's case, someone who teleported themselves under a great, there was like a threat of death or something, and they managed to teleport them. They didn't know how they did it. It happens. But just like you can tap into this information.
And that's very, very interesting what you're saying. It really bloody is. And and again, what's coming in my head is this is just the truth of the Pleiadians. This is and I'm sure different species throughout the universe have different truths. Would you say, is that possible?
Well, look, people say anything is possible. Maybe not everything is possible, but let's put it this way: if
I think it's a good truth. I think it's a good truth. Don't get me wrong.
No. Look, I'm neutral. It's like, if it's true, it's true. If it isn't, it isn't. I only want to know the truth. I tell people, I tell religious people to their face, I have absolutely no respect for your beliefs, and I hope you feel the same way about mine. I do, however, respect people who have good values and live them. That's what I resonate to, and I want to learn from that. So to answer this question, what we're told in the spiritual teaching, part of why we have this mess on earth and this mission from these people, these Pleiadians, this has been going on at least 13,500 years with them and the prophets here.
Wow.
Part of the reason is so the truth of how things really do work can be presented, not forced into a belief system. So if you go through this, then, because line after line, there's hundreds of pages where you get to think through something. You don't have to just read this, okay, I got it. No, you go, wait a minute.
Cool.
I haven't looked at anything that way. And it's not about we have to come up with a fast conclusion or accept something as truth in a day, a week, a month, or a year. We want to work it out. That's why I can say to people, honestly, look, there's stuff in here I don't know. It makes sense to me. If someone said, I'm putting a gun to your head, would you believe that Meier is true or false, or would you accept it as truth or not if you had to, bet your life on it? I'd say, well, sure, I would, because I have all of this 36 years worth of experience, research, history showing me that this man has been consistent, honest, and I've been able to test out so much stuff. But you, my friends, you have to do this for yourself. Otherwise, you just become a believer or a skeptic, whichever.
Exactly, and completely agree with everything you're saying there as well. And just one if we can do this briefly, but why Billy? What is their connection with Billy?
Good. Okay, so like we said, the spirit attaches at the 21st day to the embryo. Here you got the fetus starts. According to the information in the case, reincarnation of the human spirit is a fact of life. Now, we don't even know for sure, empirically, that there's a human spirit, let alone there's a reincarnation. We may believe it or we may not believe it. We may accept it or not accept it, but we don't yet know. So they're saying, okay, fine, but we're going to tell you how it is, and in time, eventually you're going to be able to know if this is true or not. And so the other shoe that drops is the spirit that enlivens Billy Edward Albert Meier is enormously ancient and literally the most ancient spirit, human spirit, in the universe that had already gone into the non-physical levels billions of years ago. And then in a very unique situation, that spirit came back to incarnate after having gone through evolution and learned all these things to incarnate again as a human being in different missions on worlds as a prophet to help people straighten out where they had gone very badly astray, including a peoples in another region of space that Meier's spirit form as a previous person called Nocodemian had been a leader for, had been the the progenitor of races and all these people. When he passed into that non-material level, these people started to lose their direction. They no longer, in time, were living in a creational way. They were warriors. They were going crazy, attacking. His spirit form came back, began human incarnations again for the purpose of showing up to get them back on track. And a lot of the way that it is said that he did that, to put down the revolutions, terrorism, wars, and all, those are the same mechanisms and means that are contained in the spiritual teaching as practical steps for us to survive what we're in now.
Right. Okay. Wow. This is so interesting. I knew it was going to be, and I knew we'd have no time for it all, because it's just such a huge topic. This is that can go over.
It's so biggie.
It's a massive one. Okay. When Billy passes in the future, and I hate to talk like this, but no, we're all going to go down there. Yeah. What's in place to continue his work, and to continue the foundation?
Right. I have to throw in this thought. I always like to say, I have a bumper sticker about, it says reincarnation. Don't worry about dying. You'll live through it. And it's kind of, in a sense, not your personality, but you'll be back. So Meier's work as a prophet is effectively really done. All that comes forth now is gravy, so to speak. That more context, more information, but the mission, the key to our future survival, to get the spiritual teaching back into our world, unadulterated, uncorrupted, unedited, falsified, that has been accomplished, and it will remain that way because this is the electronic age. People around the world, for the most part, can read and write. More can than can't. The electronic storage means, as if not just these great books that people will secure, there will be electronic storage. It will be preserved from this point on for the centuries and millennia to come, studied here and elsewhere. Meier also writes the spiritual teaching for the Plejaren people. His development in consciousness and spiritual development is higher than theirs. As technological beings, they're way beyond him, but they know who he is, and he writes the teaching for them as well.
Right. And how far away are the Plejarans? I mean, what sort of distance are they away from Earth?
Well, you go about 400 light years that way. You take a right or a left, and another 80 to 100 light years, you're 500 light years from here, you're in their star system that's beyond the Pleiades. Don't go south. Just stay. East or west is okay. But what do we do with it? We can't see their homeworld from here. It is said that they live in a time-space configuration that's just a part piece of a second out of phase with us. I cannot really wrap my head all around that.
So are we talking interdimensional?
I don't know if they would describe it that way. I've never been that interested in all that dimension stuff and time frame and shift. I'm thinking, well, at some point in some lifetime, I'll get to that. But in this one, peace, love, freedom, harmony, how to bring ourselves back to reason and thinking. And a lot of people can do it all, but that stuff, I was never that into science fiction, let alone that kind of science fiction.
Okay, now what about those who are heavily into the hybrid theories? I mean, I had Dr. David Jacobs on just recently, and he believes that the hybridization is a real program, and this is really taking place.
Well,
and who's doing it then if it's not the Plejarans?
You asked me, so I'm sitting here rolling my eyes. I met him about 2.5 years ago in Las Vegas. Look, let's go logically. For a race, and let's say a human race, because he thinks largely it's grays or whatever, which aren't a race. These were androids from the Zeta Reticulum. I'll march through some of this and try and make it as clear as I can, based again on the information in the case and my own thinking. A space traveling race, by definition, can't have a lifespan of 70 years, 80, 90 years, because they have to evolve over time and over trial and error to go vast distances at very high speeds, but until they reach the level of development of hyperspace, they have to have multi-hundred-year at least lifespans, at least. The Pleiaren, their lifespans may go over 1,200 years. Other races may even have higher, longer lifespans. Some do. Now, you have a long-lived species, which means technologically also very advanced and genetically very advanced. You've got a body that lasts you for 400, 500, 600, 1,000 years, and you're not decrepit at 50, 60, 70. Now you show up on or around Earth. Oh, gee, I can't wait to go get some corrupt human genetic material that is fraught with degenerative disease, premature aging, aggression, violence, rampant stupidity, etc. And I can't wait to create a new race with my wonderful genetics, mixing it with these dolts. I'm going to float people through their walls and take them on my spaceship. And because we're dying off, we've come all the way from someplace in space because we've got to get the best material. Are you kidding me? Where's the logic? That's so unscientific, it's beyond ridiculous. David Jacobs, unfortunately, has zero evidence. Where are these hybrid babies? No. Well, I was taken on board a craft, and I got to hold my hybrid. As Meier and the Pleiaren pointed out long ago, most real abductions, meaning when somebody's really taken, these are secret military operations. I put up a video on my channel where I interviewed a guy who knew nothing about the Meier case. But he had been in the military for at least a dozen years, a master sergeant, a sniper, weapons development, top secret level clearance above the president, all this stuff. He said, we've got this thing where we can go into a neighborhood at night, a team can come in and pump gas into a home while someone's asleep, do all sorts of stuff, whatever we want with them. They'll think that they've had this experience or that experience, and then we're gone. We could leave them somewhere else, and they think they've been abducted by aliens. This is a disinformation program, and the disservice done by people who prattle on, pardon me, but this is an important time we're in. And you ask the question, if any of these people, the late Dr., I forget what his name was, who was killed in Totteridge, as a matter of fact, a car accident from Harvard, he thought there was all sorts of alien stuff going on. And then there's David Jacobs. This guy's name will come to me at some point, probably. Sure. He died in my sister's neighborhood in Totteridge. Oh. Well, anyhow, if these people could produce actual evidence, but they can't. They have their theories. They have all these. A lot of people are very sincere. They think they've had experiences on board spaceships and all this stuff. We are not that hard. If we get drugged or gassed or hypnotized, human beings come up with all sorts of funny stuff. We are not quite as intact as we think we are.
Okay.
Zero evidence for that, and it is a tremendous disservice to humanity that they go out and prattle about it.
Okay, and that's your opinion, and I appreciate that. I really do. And we're not here to bash anyone, which we're not doing. I know, but I mean,
no, it's
I
theory.
Appreciate your opinion. Yeah.
This theory. Look, I mentioned because you mentioned a person, but
absolutely.
I'm expressing on a theory. This is happening according to Pleiaren and Meier. No, it isn't. And then when I thought through it, it's like one more thing about people who claim they're contactees. I will ask them if I get the chance, when was the last time, like in my country, the president or vice president, a Supreme Court justice, a congressperson or senator, a governor of a state, the mayor of a city, the dog catcher in your town ever decided you were important enough to come and impart wisdom to? It hasn't happened, has it? But long-lived advanced space-traveling aliens are picking you up or channeling through your head because you're so important. And you're so important that there isn't a thing you say that has unique, significant authenticity or importance. I'm sorry, it has to be said because we've got to have this view out there too. People, I'm glad to be challenged on it.
Okay. And as you've said there, the disinformation from the government, then the world governments must know of the visitations taking place then on this earth. They must know that there's more in the sky than what we're being told and what we can even see with our own eyes.
at the top levels of intelligence services and, let's say, secret government levels, the Meier case, it's known at the top levels at the Vatican who he is. That makes them a little uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, years ago, Meier was told, watch, because the Vatican and the popes are going to start to adopt your information to try to recruit more people into the church. And they did, with overpopulation, don't breed so much, and environmental stuff. They know, now not everybody knows, and all the stuff about all these races coming here, no.
Well,
there's been some, but
absolutely.
This is way overblown.
Sure. And why weren't the Pleiarans? I mean, you have mentioned the connection with Billy, but why weren't they? I mean, this is probably a stupid question. I hope not. But why wouldn't they just let themselves known to the masses then, as far as you're aware?
Okay, for a few reasons that, and I thought it through myself. I mean, they said certain things, and I thought about it. Look, I'm a dilution here, right? It's the Pleiaran contact Meier. Meier puts out his information. I'm someone who talks about Meier's information. I've contacted, even as of yesterday, scientists who claim to be interested in the future and the environment and all this, and I brought them, I present to them, I want you to look at this information. I've got people from NASA supporting all this stuff. Sometimes I'm not interested. No courtesy of, dear so-and-so, thank you, I've looked at this. No, I'm not interested. Now, because of the religious pollution that's taken place here over all these millennia, all the beliefs that are active or latent with people, all we need are these nice shiny discs to start descending from the sky and watch mass psychosis, suicide, murder, the breakdown of society and control, and they know it. They can't do that.
Well, it's a very thin line, isn't it, when you consider, you take away the police service overnight, you think how much things would just change. I mean
breakdown.
The breakdown,
and
yeah.
They know it, and all of our control mechanisms know it too. And those that have studied the Meier case realize that at this point, they're not in danger from that. They may want to create their fake aliens and alien invasion scenarios to frighten people. So if they want to inflict martial law or anything else, they can do that. But they know that the Pleiaran aren't going to invade us. The Pleiaran offered contact to our Carter administration in '79, and Carter turned it down.
Yeah.
We're not ready.
Okay. Now, I haven't gone into the disinformation, was it faked, was it not? There's many other interviews that you've done that's always covered that as well, and I'm not interested in that in this particular interview. What I am interested in is to end this on the spiritual information. So how can we liberate ourselves then? What is the way forward as far as you understand through the Maya material?
Sure, and I'm glad to be able to say it at this time too, from having gone through all the steps of looking at the material, knowing nothing about the spiritual teaching in the beginning. This is going to perhaps for some people sound simplistic or overwhelming, depending on your reference point. We need to embrace a few core things, such as 100% self-responsibility for everything in our lives. Again, we are influenced, things come our way for better or for worse, but we still have 100% self-responsibility for how we handle things. And that is so critical, it can't be oversold, because we have been used to turning the power over to the experts, the gurus, the deities, the saints, saviors. People are doing that all the time. They're Pavlovian. Go to countries where the church is still strong and listen to the church bells ring at appointed times. Just like Pavlov's dog salivate, it entrances people subconsciously. The comfort of the church is that. Okay, so we have to take 100% self-responsibility and not be afraid to say, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. Is it true or not? I'll investigate. But I don't buy into belief. So we have to then practice what's called neutral positive thinking. It means we now look at everything to see it as it is. Everything. Not as we prefer it, not as we fear it, not as we're being sold it, but as it is, which means, again, we are responsible for our perceptions. And how we think about what we see, what we experience, produces feelings in us. It's not the other way around. We don't feel and then think. First, we think about something, whether we know it or not. We think, a feeling arises. Then there may be micro thoughts that compel us or impel us or propel us to act or to not act. Let's make this, chunk it down. We need to learn how to think and understand that laws like the law of cause and effect are immutable and operate universally. Our thoughts are part of that. So, as we, there's an old religious saying, as a man thinketh, so he becomes, as you think in your heart. That's true. And even the so-called golden rule is another expression. These are expressions of cause and effect. Do unto others, there goes the pendulum, as you would have them, send it back to you. Now, every religion actually has that law in some form, or that understanding, to the degree that it's really emphasized. If that alone was taught in every religion, you wouldn't need the rest of the religions. Nothing. They'd be teaching truth, as start with something true. Okay, so when we understand that the thought is an action too, when we get the idea we're thinking, now it's a cause. It causes feelings. Feelings cause another level of thought and action. So it means that what we're encouraged to do in this case, and this is why it'll drive people nuts. Well, where's the easy thing here? How do I just fix everything? We've got terrorism, we've got this, we've got that. Because humanity has been sitting around for millennia churning out gunk and getting gunk back. Now, it's a slow process. It's going to take us a long time, humanity, to course correct. But if we don't start now, it's going to be brutal. Absolutely. To the point that we'll have a decimated world. Myers recently published information that he wrote while he's recovering from a heart valve operation on the environment is enormously sobering. And I'll do a show about that. But just to say, he's not been wrong prophetically. Look, in 1958, he said, as retribution for the Christian crusades of centuries ago, fundamentalist Islamist terrorism will spread irrepressibly worldwide. In 1987 and 81 and 87, he says, Europe will shake and quiver as the warriors and fanatics of Islam spread through Europe. Merkel just opened the door to that. These various countries, look, our country, right? All these people that sell out the country because they're weak, they're spineless, and they don't recognize or care about the danger. They're not stopping to think and go, wait a minute, let's look at this. So, thinking.
Yeah. It's so true what you just said there. I mean, we have a massive problem over here right now. We do not know exactly how many refugees have come from Syria. It's constant. Even as we speak now, the boats are constant. It's not told by the news right now because it's in such a bad state. And and as you say, the sleeper cells are in there. They are there.
Meier has foretold this for decades. And what's coming to Great Britain, what's coming to America is not good. Because, look, let's be honest about things. First of all, Great Britain, there's only 22 countries on Earth that you haven't invaded. The United States of America, since 1947, has launched over 200 and some unprovoked acts of aggression worldwide. Cause and effect, that pendulum comes back as a wrecking ball. This is the reality of this life that we're living in pivotal times. This isn't to scare people, it's to say, look, let's wake up. If we will wake up and start waking up others, not just getting crazy and shooting people and all the rest of this stuff or becoming fearful, let's sober up. There are people fleeing from insane religious systems, bringing that insane religiosity to different countries. This is a recipe for absolute disaster. According to the prophecies, that's what's coming. Meier predicted mass migrations are going to flood and cause strife in all these countries. This goes back to the 80s when he was predicting our World Trade Center falling because of terrorists. This is equal opportunity suffering coming.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so much more as well in this material that we've barely scratched the surface. I mean, and I do apologize for not maybe getting some other points in there, but you just can't cover it in the time we've got. But I really appreciate what you just had to say there to end the show off. I think that's and the important aspect of this work right now for me is the spiritual side of it, most definitely.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we've been putting your website up on the screen and your DVDs as well. So I'd just like to say, Michael Horn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
Anybody that's gotten to this point of the show and sat through all of this with us, if they want to order my DVD, any DVD, I'll send them a free one with it at no extra charge. All they have to do is mention your name or the show. So I've got a couple of award-winning films, one of which has just been picked up for international distribution. I'm very happy. And did they listen? So that's my commercial plug. And of course, I have the English language books, and if people write, I will answer all emails and send them to the free information as well, all over the place.
Excellent. Well, we'll put up all that up on screen as well. So, well, thank you so much, and I hope to get you back on soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.